Dog Days of Summer on the CU podcast. This is our 130th one. Wow. It's July 31st, Tuesday.
Boy, oh boy.
2018. That's Ian Ferguson. He's excited. He ran through the sprinkler in his front lawn yesterday. I'm Pat Contry.
I wish I did.
I did a super soaker battle with the pump-up grenade water balloons.
I love the water balloons that actually look like grenades.
Yes.
Yeah, those are the best. Those are just fantastic.
I don't think you can confuse. I don't think a kid's going to get shot by a cop because how many kids will have a grenade anyway? But those are fun.
Uh-huh.
Those are always also a little bit thicker balloon rubber. Those sometimes it actually hurt more if they didn't explode or they hit you.
Oh, yeah, no, they stung.
They'd be like, thwop.
They definitely stung. And they were always made so that if you inflated them, if you filled them just right, they actually had little bumps on the outside. They were a little bit bumpy on the outside.
Oh, you're a little bumpy on the outside. What are we talking about? No Man's Sky. The death, apparently, of MoviePass. The hoary Switch left Joy-Con with a D-pad. A Sega pop-up book that Ian will probably want to marry. Escapist going for non-political gaming news. Not nudes. That'd be a different topic. A Pikachu butt plug. And your Q&A. Ian, we had fun at Comic-Con, didn't we? We had fun.
I did, actually. I had fun this year.
Well, I said we, but okay.
Well, I don't know if you had fun. That would be up to you. I can say that I had fun, yes.
Okay, so half of us had fun at least.
I had a good time. The key to having a good time at Comic-Con as I enter my late 30s is to not go as often. I had a lot of fun on Friday with Vonnie. That was the first day I went, was the Friday. We walked around. We had a good time. We were there for most of the day. I think we tapped out about 6. Saw all the booths I needed to very early. Squid
Kids?
Yep. I always like going there. We chatted. We chatted with Nate for about half an hour.
We got to work with them. We got to figure that out. There's something there.
Nah, artists like to work on their own, man.
Okay, then I shouldn't have that conversation with him then that he seemed okay with.
I mean, I'm just saying, like, I work with him in what way? A CU podcast cartridge would be great.
What the hell else you think I meant?
I don't know. Buy him out? Yeah.
Buy him out? We can sell plastic carts at conventions? No, Ian, that's not what work with someone means. This isn't Shark Tank.
I like the playing cards he does a lot. Actually, he does the playing card stuff. I got a
if you haven't seen them out there, these are the Nintendo cartridges with arms and legs.
Mini Nintendo, he calls them.
He's done dozens of designs, it seems, at this point. There's a lot.
They're awesome, and he also loves playing cards, so he does his own playing cards. He has a one of the things that I really like that he does. He has what are called sketch studs. They're blank plastic cards, and if you buy them from him at a show, he'll do a sketch on them. So I got one of those this year.
Go to squidkidsinc.com. This isn't an advertisement, but we like his stuff. We've bought stuff off him for years. Ian gave me a present. I had that giant blue special edition one. I think he had one left this year.
Yeah.
Which I got to find from the move. There's things that now I still don't know what they are.
If you're ever at Luna, we have one of the gold ones on one of our desks. At our wedding, all of our centerpieces were blank mini Nintendos, actually, and we ran around the one year.
That's right.
We bought a case of the blank ones, and then we ran around at con that year and had various artists do sketches on the blank labels.
I forget which one was at my table,
but it was really cool, a lot of fun. Anyway, so, real good dude. That's always one of my favorite places to stop every year. Oh,
sure.
And so we had a blast on that Saturday. That Friday. That Saturday, I went down, but I spent most of the day hanging out with my friend Adam, who I bumped into. I was outside of the convention for most of that day. I was there for maybe 2 hours, and then that was it. But I had fun. I was not overloaded. I was not overburdened. I took it easy.
I want to say that it seemed like, versus the past 5 or 6 years, a more muted Comic-Con. There was only a few big announcements. There wasn't any huge event like the Star Wars Orchestra or any weird surprises that came up during the event. It was like, holy shit, we weren't expecting that. There wasn't anything like that. It was just, oh, here's a trailer for Aquaman. We know that's coming out. Here's a Godzilla trailer. We know that's coming out. Shazam trailer. We know that's coming out. Actually, Shazam looks pretty cool. So that was really it in terms of like the movie news. It was kind of like strange. There was no Marvel panel. There was no Star Wars panel or anything. You know, they had their Han Solo movie come out. There wasn't any surprise screenings of a movie down the street or anything like that they usually have. You know what I mean? There wasn't anything like that. there was less cosplay. I mean, this is just my eyes. There seemed to be like half of the cosplay, if not less than half. There seemed to be less cosplay. Now, that also could be because if you didn't have a pass, they didn't let you near the convention center, which I'm a fan of, by the way, because that keeps the riffraff out, and it means that you can get in and out without getting trampled on. Because otherwise, in past years, you can walk literally up to the front doors if you didn't have a pass. You just couldn't get in. Now you can't get near the front doors if you don't have a pass.
Yeah, so if you've never been to Comic-Con, the trolley runs right up to basically the front, and then there's a street where the buses come in, and you can't approach. Basically, the trolley line is the cutoff line. If you don't have a badge, you can't approach the convention center from there.
On the sides, the cutoffs are like a block on each side to like the last hotel.
It's as you cross from the hotels, they stop you. I think in terms of the lack of announcements and things like that, I think it's just timing. I don't think that was on purpose. I just think there wasn't a whole lot to announce. Marvel is basically gagged until it gets close to. You can't say much of anything until after Infinity War, or whatever Part 2 is called.
Sure, Endgame. That they announced it probably be Endgame.
Oh, did they? Okay.
Just like Highlander Endgame in that tradition.
Oh yeah, good.
Probably same
bodes well.
Bodes well. I drove 45 minutes to see Highlander Endgame in the theater. Very disappointed.
I'm so sorry. They can't say much until then,
or until the deal goes through officially. I mean, it's approved, but the deal has to go through, signed, delivered with Fox.
Signed, sealed, delivered.
And then they announce Fantastic Four, and my head explodes. I mean, that's basically how it's going to happen.
And then, Star Wars is over a year off, right?
A year and a half.
Yeah, so just not a whole lot to say.
Yeah,
I saw tons of cosplay, but I think part of it was, you're right, I just think it had to do. Well, no, you're right. Vani said she saw less cosplay.
I saw less.
Year. But I saw more on 5th this year, so I think part of it was
downtown.
Yeah, so I mean, in general, there was quite a bit, but I think you're right. I think in the convention hall, there wasn't as much.
You see like 5 or 6 Poison Ivy, or one year, a few years ago, there was like a ton of Poison Ivy. There was like 20 of them. I saw maybe one. I saw one Wonder Woman. I saw no Storms. There would be years I'd see like 5 or 6 Storms every year, and I didn't see that. So I was just looking like, oh, okay. You always see the guy in the Silver Surfer paint. That guy who's ripped with, God bless him. But it just seemed like there was less.
Well, with Comic-Con, I know some people who cosplay, and I should probably ask them. Well, Lane, my coworker, cosplays, and I think for her, as she puts it, is there's so many other conventions if you want to go cosplay, that aren't nearly as. Comic-Con's just a tough place to do it.
Sure.
Because it's so crowded and it's so packed.
Yeah, you're always bumping into people. It didn't seem like there was as much bumping, at least on Saturday's usually the busiest day. Usually when you're in the middle near the Marvel and DC stuff, you can't move, especially when there's people that are signing autographs. People just stop and just fucking
I walked in Saturday, got short of breath, and was like, I don't know how I'm gonna make it through this. It was still bad on Saturday for me.
And as another aside for that, there were far less trade paperbacks than there were in previous years. So there was one whole booth that always had trade paperbacks. Whenever Stan Lee would sign and show up there or whatever, they had no trade paperbacks this year. They just had newer comics. And then the other people that had them had less. So a lot less of the fun digging. I bought a couple. I looked for... Frank, you should have got Dr. Fate like 8 years ago, every year in a row. It's out of print. I couldn't find it. And it's like $90 on Amazon. I told you. I don't know what you're waiting for. It was like 40% off every year. Torpedo Comics didn't have it. So I was looking for Frank for Dr. Fate for the Golden Age. And then I looked around for Amazing Fantasy 15, which is really the only expensive old comic that I wish to have, which is 1962, the first appearance of Spider-Man before Amazing Spidey #1, which actually isn't worth that much in comparison. Not at all. So Amazing Fantasy 15 goes up in value seemingly about 30% every year. And the reason why it's on my list is because I was this close to buying it on eBay back in 2008 or so, before I decided to move out here. And back then, a 3.5 condition, which is like, yeah, good plus, costs only $3,000, $4,000. That's like 10 years ago, 11 years ago. Now that 3.5 is worth, in Pat's finger air quotes, about $25,000, $22,000. So how does it go up that much every year. Well, I don't know because I don't follow comic price trends. I just know that when a movie comes out, people want it, they buy it. But I discovered something interesting over the weekend, which now, this happens with video games, but with comic books, I think it's much more visible because there's a lot less of these rare comics versus rare games. But there was about 6 or 7 Amazing Fantasy 15s throughout the comic section, which is like 15% of the Comic-Con floor. It's not a huge amount. 6 or 7, ranging from, one was like a 2.5, there was a 3, 3.5, 4, and then there was like a gorgeous 5.5 there that they wanted like $52,000 for or whatever. So I was looking for the 3.0 range, maybe 3.5, maybe 4.0 if I was lucky and felt like blowing more pat cash than I really have. So I priced them all out between different dealers, and no one was buying them the whole weekend, which was interesting. So it's like the Earthbound thing. Because while Amazing Fantasy 15 is hard to find, it's not the rarest old vintage comic by a long shot. It's not. There's still a lot of them out there, relatively speaking. But I think one had sold throughout the weekend, and then I found out at the end of the weekend, a booth that had 2 of them for sale, the proprietor there bought 2 more that weekend. So I talked to him about it. This was like Sunday afternoon at like 3, so it's wrapping up. And he straight up says, well, yeah, I own 10 of these Amazing Fantasy 15s. And I straight up said, what do you do with them? He didn't even sugarcoat. He said, yeah, I'm hoarding them. He used the hoard word. He said, the H word. He said, I'm hoarding them. And then he had a younger guy, a nice guy I spoke to for about 20 minutes about, comic book prices versus like video game prices and what's going on in that market, trying to educate him and show that, hey, I know a little bit about this stuff. I showed him a certain NES Guidebook I had on me. He liked it. And just comparing the ins and outs of the collecting hobbies. But the younger guy goes, the old guy, well, what do you even says like, yeah, what do you feel like in the future? What do you do with them? Yeah, maybe I'll trade all 10 in for like a 9.0 or something like that. It's just like, okay, sure. So then I got to thinking about, and this is going to come up later with the pinball machines, about what happens when all these guys have all these old comics. And I found out that about 10, 11 years ago when the housing crash happened, people that were investing in real estate before, I was told, started buying up comic books. So if you want to look at the prices historically, they probably start shifting around 2008, really sliding up a lot. That would make a lot of sense. People with a lot of money getting into it, older people. So I don't have to wait 30 years till someone's dead or a bunch of people are dead for these Fantasy 15s come back on the market and the price just comes lower and lower. Because I think at this point, it's almost like what happened with Steam events where they were just being traded and sold between sellers. And people out in the marketplace actually wanted one were priced out, and we're not the ones dictating the prices as much as people just thinking, how much more can I make? Because I was hearing stories that people were buying Amazing Fantasy 15s and flipping them even within a day just to make whatever, a couple thousand on them. Oh, it's $2,000, whatever. I bought it for 20, I'll sell it for 22. I made some money.
Yeah, and then $2,000
but if that constantly happens between the seller community, that's a huge artificial inflation on the price.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm kind of depressed about that.
Yeah, no, it sucks.
It sucks.
But it's also not surprising. Also, you have to look at I think the resurgence in comics in general probably happened around 2008 too. I mean, you look at when Comic-Con started to get huge again, and granted, a lot of that was due to pop culture and things like that, but that's...
MCU helped for sure.
Yeah, the Marvel comic, the MCU definitely helped. Comic-Con became a thing that you couldn't get into around, 2008, 2009, 2010.
I would say it started to get really difficult. 2008 was my first one. Once you get to like 2011, then it's like, okay, now it's getting tough.
Right.
To get a ticket.
So now you're seeing a popularity surge in all things comic and pop culture related around that time.
Sure. Walking Dead, things like that, all just blow up at the same time. The Hobbit movies get announced again, things like that, right? Around that time? Yeah, 2000. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that hit. Harry Potter, things like that, all hit at the same time. And now all that stuff's gone now you think about it, even though Amazon's doing their $1 billion Lord of the Rings series. That's going to be interesting. So, speaking of series, Ian, pre-orders for a certain SNES guidebook are going to be up on ultimatesnes.com. So it's
really?
It's the You're excited. So it's the pre-Kickstarter pre-Kickstarter pre-orders. So it's the same style book. There's going to be 2 available covers for now. You're going to have the North American version. Sign up right now, but by the time they're listening to it, it is, Ian. So don't be shocked. But there's going to be a PAL version cover and a North American cover for our European friends.
Oh, this website is great.
Thanks, Ian.
I like it.
I just said it's not going to be up till the
You
time they
should
listen to it.
visit too.
And I'll give you a couple bucks off because early adopters. So ultimatesnes.com. It's going to kickstart in the fall, though, if you want to wait for the official Kickstarter for that.